I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. 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 I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, okay?
Hello, friend. Welcome to I'm Sorry, Okay, a podcast where we are watching so much Degrassi. I'm LD, filling in for Mary, and I'm here with Paul. This week, we watched Season 3, Episode 3 of Degrassi Junior High, A Big Girl Now. This episode was written by Susan Nielsen, directed by Kit Hood, and originally aired on November 14th, 1988. In this episode, Lucy begins spending more time with Paul at the expense of her friends, and Kathleen snubs Melanie after being elected vice president. How do we feel about that? I feel like that's basically the whole episode.
It's basically the whole episode. My only note is that it just feels like an unfortunate title they've got us working with here.
I don't love it.
I'm not a fan.
And I was trying to figure out what it was that was bothering me so much. And I realized that it was that, like, I don't remember if it was Huggies or Pampers, like pull-ups where it's like, mommy, wow.
I'm a big kid now.
That kept getting in my head.
Just a really solid jingle, though, really.
Honestly, one of the best jingles of our time. Up there with Goldfish. Like, I love fishes because they're so delicious. Gotta go fishing.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
By Menon.
Oh, yeah.
Costanza.
I honestly just feel like the era of like the strong jingle is gone. Like, I feel like what's the last like good jingle you even heard?
I'm trying to think of one. Also, I don't really like see that many commercials anymore. I don't have cable. I'll watch something on YouTube or Hulu, but that's like the same commercial every time kind of thing.
That's a good point. I feel like now ads are so targeted and everyone's just trying to sell me like lamps that make it look like there's a sunset in my house, or like Korean skincare. And honestly, like, I can be convinced to buy anything. So
it's like, I can't really imagine writing a jingle for a sunset lamp.
Oh, but
like,
in the 90s they could have, and it would have been beautiful.
And it would have had like Johnny Cash like hawking them.
It would have been like a really beautiful, I think, like synthy, like as the sun goes down.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm just thinking about how Johnny Cash was in a Taco Bell commercial.
I absolutely don't think I knew that.
He's like, find it on YouTube. Johnny Cash hawking Taco Bell. He's really tiny.
Everything I thought about Johnny Cash is so different now.
Find this clip on YouTube. It's amazing. It's not the hurt Johnny Cash that we all know and love. He's smiling. He's slamming the guitar. Really, like, just really old, like 90s antenna TV that he is smaller than. It's like a 10-inch TV and he's so small.
I've actually been thinking about this a lot. I feel like when we were growing up, it was fine for celebrities to be in commercials and it wasn't like embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, Candace Bergen was just like hawking that fucking Sprint. Like,
oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a dime a minute or something. We had like John Lithgow.
John Lithgow.
Were you about to say John Lithgow too?
10, 10, 3, 2, 1.
Like, it was just fine. Oh, there was that guy. Oh my God, what was his name? He was the dude. He was the dude on Curb Your Enthusiasm who needed a kidney.
Jesus, I don't know.
Whatever. He was selling Boku, the like adult juice box.
What the fuck?
Did you never drink Boku?
No.
Oh God. Honestly, I demanded it in my packed lunches. Like, my parents gave me almost no autonomy. They sent me to school with like, really nasty shit because I grew up in a house where, like, if I asked for a Lunchable, my mom was just like, that's garbage food. It's full of sodium.
She's not wrong.
She's not wrong. She was totally right. And honestly, I kind of thank her now because I do love a vegetable. But, right, like, as a kid, it was really embarrassing going to school and having like the whole meal bread with like organic peanut butter and whatever.
Organic peanut butter is embarrassing as an adult, but it's still
disgusting.
Good.
It's disgusting.
It's its own thing, I guess.
It's disgusting. You shouldn't have to stir it like a can of paint. to get it to work. Like you shouldn't have to activate your peanut butter. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, this is all really strayed like down a long and winding road.
Every pod is a winding road.
Get a little bit closer. But like I think that like the day of the good jingle is that day is done. The day of like a good celebrity endorsement is done. Like I feel like basically once celebrities started endorsing stuff like Proactive, stuff was weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like Weight Watchers, like those kinds of Slim Fast, like that kind of stuff was all kind of, oh, the celebrity must really be like bottoming out.
Yes.
They're not okay anymore.
Yeah.
Like they're not getting paid anymore.
I just want to say, if anyone listening has a good modern jingle that they like, please send it to us. Email us. I'm sorry, okay, pod@gmail. Tweet at us. Hit us up on Instagram. I want to know about these jingles if they're out there.
I'm desperate to know. I'm absolutely desperate to know what commercials people enjoy now, because like I loved commercials when I was a kid. Like I would tape them off of TV and watch them like a greatest hits reel.
I love a good old commercial. Like, what were they doing? What were they thinking? These ad execs were all on coke, I'm sure.
You do love an old commercial.
Oh,
that actually is like something about you.
Oh, I get so excited.
Like a 90s commercial mashup on YouTube.
I want to be marketed something that no longer exists. Something that like stopped being produced 20 years. Sell it to me.
I'm amenable. I'll buy it on eBay. So we open in Mr. Garcia's class just as the bell's ringing. Lucy is still in her Sergeant Pepper uniform, which I really support. I feel like she's really dedicated to this look. I wasn't about to make it my look of the week 2 weeks in a row. I think that's some lazy shit. Yeah. But
it's still there. It's still killing it.
Yeah, I mean, Lucy's kind of like a cartoon character at this point where like, you know, you open up their closet and it's just the same shirt like all the way across.
Sometimes you just want to repeat an outfit.
I get it.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So LD kind of like immediately kicks us off and reminds Lucy about her soccer game after school. And she's just kind of like, it's the first game of the season. It's going to be really embarrassing if nobody shows up, which is very true. And, you know, she invites Spike and Spike's just kind of like, I've got to watch the baby. And a bunch of, you know, 14-year-olds are like, don't you ever get time to yourself? It's like, no.
Yeah,
do you know what a parent is or what a baby is?
It's like a little unbelievable that they wouldn't at least understand that.
Honestly, if this were real life, no one would be inviting Spike to anything because everyone would just assume she was busy, even if she wasn't.
Yeah.
But sure, it's nice that they're still inviting her to stuff. Like,
wholesome.
And, you know, I appreciate this. Like, I'm a person with a chronic illness. I hate when people just assume that I don't want to come to stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, let's all be a little bit realistic here. So, you know, as Spike's walking away, Lucy's sort of wondering out loud, like, I wonder what it's like. And LD's just kind of like, having a kid? No. Like, she is me. She is the audience proxy.
Yeah, she's definitely both of us, where it's just like, ugh.
But then Lucy kind of clarifies that she's wondering what having sex would be like. And I'd say once again,
LD is both of us, where it's just like,
ooh, yeah, definitely.
At 14.
Ooh, yeah, dude. Ooh. At 14, I was not thinking about what is sex like. I was just kind of like, what is kissing like?
Yeah. I must say, like, I don't believe that Lucy is wrong. I think this is just our, like, yours and my, like, where we were at, like, I'm assuming as 14-year-olds.
We were nerds.
But no judgment on, like, sort of where Lucy's, like, mind is at, like, in the scene, like, whatever. Totally cool.
Virginity is a fucking construct. Like, you can't lose it. You can't give it to somebody. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, whatever. So have sex when you want. But also, like, in my opinion, a weird thing to be wondering out loud after you've just talked to a 14-year-old mom with a premature baby. Like,
also true.
Like, that seems like it could go okay for me. But, you know, LD's just like, you're only 14. And Lucy's just like, you know, that's not so young, and that she's a big girl now. So we do love to get hit early with that titular line.
Yes, thank you. And TV shows love to use sex, even the idea of sex, as a punishment against female protagonists. So I can't wait to see where we're going to go from here.
Oh, yeah. And it's Lucy who literally never has anything go right, ever. Ever. So, yeah, I think this only spells good things.
I also just want to step back really quick to our conversation last week as far as what this scene goes and LD and Lucy's interaction over the soccer game. And Lucy's sort of like, yeah, I can't wait. I would just want to say last week I appreciated your insight into the more toxic scenarios that people who are assigned female at birth might face when it comes to situations like when Lucy bailed on LD last week. So, the whole thing was just felt insignificant to me. I was like, yeah, great. They figured it out in this one scene last week. So that very illuminating. And then just definitely by the time we get to 30 seconds into this episode, I'm like, yes. Here we go. LD, my podcast co-host, tried to warn me about what the reality of this dynamic was. And here you were very illuminating last week, but even if I hadn't had that insight, once we get to this opening scene, I'm very much like, oh no.
Oh no. It's
Oh.
the writing is on the fucking wall.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Oh, LD, you sweet summer child. Your friend is about to ditch your game. The amount of times that she's just like, I'll go. No, you're not going. We know you're not going.
Oh God.
Absolutely not. I will say that when LD's talking to Lucy about sex, LD's just like, I just wouldn't want you to get hurt. I do kind of want to know what scenario she's envisioning. And I'm assuming that they're kind of referring to a boyfriend sort of talks you into sex and then dumps you or whatever. I'm assuming that that's what she means, as opposed to I don't want you to get pregnant like Spike. But
I mean, it feels like there's some elements of Spike was talked into having sex, and maybe that's something that these kids are all aware of. So maybe that's it seems like maybe their first exposure to someone in their friend group having sex was potentially someone that was talked into it. And then also, as they are just kind of seeing every day, someone that's sort of dealing with pregnant.
Pregnant. That's actually exactly how people find out about it. So outside of school, the twins are reading Moxie, which I'm assuming is just a teen girl mag.
I tried to look it up, but
do we think it's fake?
It seemed fake, yeah.
I'm a little bit disappointed in myself. Since taking over as the Mary of our group, I haven't been doing my usual thing of knowing that everything else is taken care of, so I can do all of these weird deep dives and try and find an old issue of this on eBay or something. So,
I mean, I tried for
letting the team down.
I tried to look it up. I tried to look up Canadian magazines from the 80s to see if this might have been based on something. I found nothing. So
I mean, I'm assuming it's basically 17 or YM or whatever. Yeah. But they're reading some article which is all about if you love me, you'd have sex with me. And I felt like this was probably one of those advice columns where people would write in, you would get that a lot in teen mags. And yeah, so it felt like the twins were kind of judgmental of what they were reading.
Yeah, I wasn't clear on why they were even reading it. They seemed like they were not engaged in the content.
I mean, maybe they bought the magazine because they wanted to find out how to take their outfit from day to night or something. That's what also every magazine was telling me when I was growing up. Yeah, I honestly thought that was going to be a lot bigger of a thing when I grew up. I really thought that I was going to be this working guy, rushing from the office to my dates or something, and I was gonna immediately have to change out of my business clothes into my night clothes with just one quick swap of a garment. That never comes up.
I think you're thinking of Superman.
Yeah, you're right, because then I would also take my glasses off.
Yeah, you got to duck into a telephone booth, throw on your outfit, and then jump out.
That's a really good point. All right, you're right. So LD pulls up on her bike, and just so we absolutely don't forget, she's carrying a fucking soccer ball, and she reminds the twins about her game. And I really support this like pestering friend vibe, because this is exactly what I would do. I would be so anxious that no one's gonna come, that I would constantly be making sure everyone's gonna come. But unlike Degrassi LD, I also, part of me wouldn't want people to come because I simply don't want people to watch me do anything. So like I remember I would like be in plays and I would be like, oh god, people are gonna see it. But also this probably comes from the fact that I wasn't good at it, whereas like LD is good at soccer, so she wants people to come see her be good at it.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, very fair. So Clutch, a guy with, honestly, I can't believe we haven't discussed this, the dumbest name in the world, pulls up, and Paul and Lucy get out, and they kind of like expositorily let us know that she's going to see him at Borden, third period. And Lucy and Paul are just like making out against Clutch's car. And LD and the twins are watching from the steps of the school. And LD is just like horrified at how gross this is. And the twins are just basically like tilting their head all the way to the side, just being like, this is great. Yeah. Wow. And Lucy, I suppose, like unbarnacles herself from Paul and runs up to meet her pals, and they do this whole like giggly chit chat thing about how Lucy thinks she's in love. But then like record scratch, Wheels shows up to school and everyone literally stops being a person so they can just like stare at him.
Time to get weird as hell. It's Wheels.
Yep, everyone is legally obligated to be super weird to Wheels. Even LD, which I was kind of surprised by. I'm like, she has a dead parent. What's she doing?
True.
Come on, girl. Lead by example. We do not love it. But you know, I love that at every turn they're not just like making sure that like we know that LD is different from Lucy in the fact that like, you know, she doesn't have a boyfriend, whatever, but also just that she's like a very young kind of 14 where she thinks that making out is gross.
Yep.
Like you know what I mean? Like she's so different from the other guys, you know, like the twins are just kind of like, this is great. Make out.
Right. I mean, I think going back to kind of yours and my experience, just like we were focused on different things. Like I was focused on video games. So not even really like social or sporting events even. But yeah, I think it's like it's a little relatable for me, and to also sort of just like seeing these things emerging in my friends around me and not really like pathetically not knowing what to do about that. So there's that too.
There's got to be a part of this, and we haven't really addressed it, but there has to be a part of it where LD is sort of worried about being left behind by her friend who's maturing at a faster rate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think that like every funny looking awkward kid possibly worried about that when their friends who were better looking than them started to go kiss people. You know?
I mean, all my friends were awkward looking, so I didn't have to worry about that too much. But I saw it, you know, I saw it around. I was aware of it.
I mean, I was very much like LD, at least in the sense that I was very grossed out by people making out in public.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of like, do you have to? Like here? Because like I dated people. I was dating people in like even 8th grade, but like, I wasn't kissing anybody.
I mean, like, to a degree, I think that's like some could read that as being prudish, but on the other hand, it's like school is your job, like as a kid. And so like that's sort of like there's like a little bit of contention there where it's just like I'm here to learn. And so like, you know, I like if you don't want to see that, it's sort of like seeing somebody in your office like making out with somebody else in your office. And it's like right. And so like, I mean, it's not exactly the same. And I'm not trying to like say that one is more like correct over another, but I think maybe that's kind of where that is coming from. Because I think I was also sort of like not interested in seeing that.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of that, I'm sure we could unpack that with the therapist, you know, like I'm sure that like, you know, someone would be like, you were probably just jealous, you know, like
pure or just like bullshit puritanical Christian values that are like totally like sort of rammed into like nearly every facet of our society and the ways that we have to like step back from that. Like, how is a 14-year-old supposed to like really be aware of all those things? And so, you know, it's just like kissing's gross.
I was raised in a house where my mom would let me watch anything that had sex scenes, but I wasn't allowed to watch anything with violence.
Yep.
And so I thought that she was, or, you know, I think that she thought she was like desensationalizing all that stuff, and that I was going to grow up this like very well-adjusted, like sexually free person. But actually I was just like, "Ah!"
This feels like a lot of pressure.
Look, they're everywhere. The sex havers are everywhere. Except here. And then I think I said this in like a previous episode that we got the sex channel for free. We got the spice channel for free.
Oh, nice. Hell
Yeah, like it was a definite like I doubt that anyone in my family like gave the cable guy like a 20 to set it up weird, but like I do think that like it just sort of happened.
That rules.
Cuz we got pay-per-view for free for like 5 years. It was awesome. It's honestly, it's a waste that I wasn't into wrestling.
That's true. A lot of good wrestling at that time.
So yeah, back to Degrassi, the school where everyone goes. So in the hallway, Joey is, of course, singing his own band's song to himself when Caitlin says hi to him. And as he always does, he gives her a Caitlin, hi. Like he's never said hi to her and she's never said hi to him before. And you know what I mean? Like he says this every episode. Like it started in past tense. And it's just been like every episode we've seen since. He says it in a surprised way, like he's never seen her before.
Classic, like one track mind, Joey.
Oh. So Joey's just trying to have like a normal conversation with Wheels, and he says like Caitlin's crazy about him, and of course, like who wouldn't be because he's a studly guy. And then he gets real and asks Wheels how everything is at home, and Wheels gets very real. And he's talking about like, how he comes home and he expects to see his parents there and they're not there, because they're, like dead. And Joey just like doesn't really know what to say. And so he's just kind of trying diversion tactics. He's kind of like, let's have fun. Let's have a band practice, whatever, which seems like a really bad idea considering that Snake, who is 33% of the band, can't even look at Wheels. But I do think Joey's trying his best here.
He kind of calls out Snake like later, but I actually kind of like the complexity of the Joey character like in this scene. Like we get him doing his two-dimensional Joey ego freak thing, like being kind of just momentarily obsessed with Caitlin in like this creepy way, but in a way coming back from this previous scene of like everybody seeing Wheels and just getting like really weird and silent. Now we're just seeing like Joey just being like totally normal to Wheels and like just kind of being like goofy about like, or trying to like diffuse whatever Wheels is going through. And he even like checks in, like when he sees that Wheels doesn't really have any interest in what he's talking about, he sort of like pauses and he's just like, how are things going with you? And it's just sort of, it's like this, like more of this kind of continued, like shocking level of maturity from this character that we've seen from like the last two seasons, who's just like been consistently like acting like an idiot or like acting totally self-absorbed. He's sort of like rolling all of that into like being kind of a good friend and like somebody who's like emotionally in tune with like somebody who needs that kind of help. Which
like since when?
Yeah, incredible.
Like
good. It's all believable. Like it's like a believable progression. Like you can almost like see every like step of how he got from where he was to like this episode.
Yeah, and Wheels is walking away from Joey and he's saying he doesn't want to have fun. He doesn't want to play music. He doesn't want to even be in the band. And as he's walking away, he bumps into Snake, and Snake just doesn't say anything. And Joey's telling Snake like Wheels wants to quit the band, and Snake's just kind of like, wouldn't you? Like he's so like,
Snake is, oh my god, don't get me started on Snake.
Yeah, man. But Joey calls his ass out. He's just like, at least I'm trying. Like you can't even talk to him, which I think is really great.
Yep.
Like I think Joey has become the best among us in this.
It's crazy
series of episodes, and I do love it. Like I love that because I know what Joey becomes in Next Generation, and I know how his arc ends at the end of Degrassi High, but I'd really forgotten the ins and outs of his character progression. You know what I mean? Like, and when I think about Joey Jeremiah, I often have skipped really to Next Generation because like, oh, well, that's the last we saw of him. So that's what I think of when I think about him. And so it's been nice to hate him and now start to have a little faith in him.
Yeah.
See that there's a reason people are friends with him. Like, he's not just the guy who's going to pester you to steal a car. He's also going to still be there for you.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like, it's a really cool like character arc that I wasn't really expecting. So love you, Degrassi.
Love you, Degrassi. So we move over to Radich's class where we get the election results. Nancy has won.
Hey.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And Kathleen is by default the vice president. And I think by default is really the operative phrasing here. But Melanie's still trying to be a good pal, and she tries to hype Kathleen up, and she's kind of telling her like being second in command is often where the real power lies. And I think like anybody who lived through like the Bush Cheney years can attest to that.
Oh, Kathleen is definitely a Cheney, no question.
My God, she really fucking is.
Yeah.
So just as Radich is starting class, Doris makes her announcement that the buses for board and high are here, and it's time to go, babies.
Okay, and you know what? Fuck it. Doris's look of the week.
Yes.
She's got this cool little like, first of all, let me start with the lighting. Like, I don't know why they went with this, like, I don't even know, like, it's just like sort of noir lighting, like very specific. She's got this cool fall tones button down with kind of like a fern print or something, matching pearl earrings and necklace, cool little purple eyeglasses strap, and just, yeah, once again, like, it's all coming together with this lighting, like maybe Mad Men vibes.
Yep.
She just looks good.
She looks straight out of Mad Men.
Yeah.
I love this look. I love that you chose this look.
Oh my God, it was like iconic.
So yeah, over at Borden, Clutch is talking to Paul as though they did not drive to school together and apparently have not spent any time together at all, because he's just kind of like, so how far have you gotten with Lucy? You know what I mean? And it's just like, seriously, you didn't talk about this directly after they were sucking each other's faces off in front of the school? You know what I mean? Like,
it feels like Joey Jeremiah energy, where like he maybe just hasn't stopped talking about this since they've been in the car. Maybe they already did have this conversation.
That actually sounds really right. I do compare him to Joey later on in my notes. He's the Joey Jeremiah of Borden High, but without the redeeming qualities.
Woof.
Yeah, rough. So the Minor Niners are walking down the stairs having a conversation about some random dude. Lucy spots Paul and makes a beeline for him, and the twins are just kind of like, we've got class. And Lucy decides that she's gonna skip them. She's gonna hang out with Paul, and she's just kind of like, people in high school skip all the time.
I mean, it's just study period.
Yeah. LD very incredulously is just like, what about my game? Which I was kind of like, she didn't say she's not going. She said she's not going to school. She didn't say she's not going to your game. But
LD could see the writing on the wall.
She sure could, because Lucy then is just like, Paul and me made plans. And I would just like to add a side note here that I need to reiterate that you can easily identify when to use me or I by removing the other person from the sentence and seeing if that sentence still makes sense. So me made plans would not make sense. And therefore, this sentence should have said, Paul and I made plans.
You hear that, Lucy?
Yeah, come on, Lucy. What are you, in high school?
You're going to skip a soccer game and get this sentence wrong grammatically? Please.
I mean, a whole adult wrote this, so come on, guys. Anyway, back to the argument. LD's just kind of like,
but you promised.
Lucy's just like,
I can't say no to Paul.
And she offers this like consolation prize that they can all come over this weekend for a sleepover because her parents are out of town. And the twins kind of look pissed at first, but then she's like, we can stay up all night and watch videos. And,
oh my God.
And the twins are like, okay. And LD is like,
It's like when the twins try and confront Radich about like the school board's decision on Spike and are immediately placated. Like these two are just constantly begging to like be like put straight back into line and like fall in line with like whatever the situation is.
They've just got to have whiplash, man. They are just constantly
seriously.
Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
But good for LD. She is just like, no.
Yeah, she's not happy about it. As Lucy is walking away, she wishes LD good luck on her game. And then she's like, she says she promises she's gonna be at the next one, which like boo.
Lies.
The twins and LD head out to the bus, and the twins are like doing that mocking tone of like, people in high school skip all the time. And they're like, we're in high school, we're not skipping. And then one of them, I think this is a very weird line, says she's making a lot of promises she can't keep. Does that mean are they saying like because she keeps promising LD she's going to go to her game and then keeps not doing it?
Yeah, that's just how I read that.
Okay.
That line didn't catch me at all.
Oh, I was like, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it just sounds
others?
like it feels like Lucy's like talking out of both sides of her mouth right now. And so she's like telling her friends one thing, but then just like going back and like agreeing with whatever her boyfriend wants to do and like totally not taking her friends into consideration.
Yeah, she's relegated the twins to being medium friends too, and that sucks. Last week we learned that LD is a medium friend, and this week it's like, oh yeah, the twins are too.
Big time.
Bummer. So over in the cafeteria, Nancy is being congratulated by basically everyone because we can assume that everyone voted for her and no one voted for Kathleen. But she's kind of like holding court at this lunch table. And everyone's just kind of like coming up to her and congratulating her. And she doesn't have to move at all. And I really love that. It's such a gangster, like kingpin or like the Godfather. Like everyone's coming in and she's like, you come to me on the day of my election, and ask for a favor. I'm gonna throw out more Godfather references, I'm sure, as this plot develops. So Melanie tells Kathleen that she wants to be on the dance committee because she wants to meet boys. And she's basically she's like, isn't it time I had like a steady relationship, which I think is hysterical.
Like honestly, like I'm not trying to go either way on Kathleen in this moment, but like that would be really annoying if like yes. You find out you lose this election and then your friend who's like supposedly trying to be supportive is just like asking for favors to like get boys. Like what
else does Melanie ever do though? All she is ever talking about is boys because she is horny 300% of the time. So obviously the dance committee is a good fit for her.
Sure.
She wants to basically build like a little Sims world where then she gets to put herself in and kiss someone at a dance.
I mean, isn't that what we all want?
Yeah, actually. So Kathleen just totally ditches Melanie. She gets up and she goes over to Nancy's table, and which I think sucks. But what I love here is that when Kathleen does it, she shoves Alexa just like clean out of the way so that she can sit down.
Like a hockey body check. She's just like, move.
It's absolutely incredible. But she sits down, she congratulates Nancy. And I love that Nancy congratulates her on being elected vice president because she was truly just given this position as a participation trophy. So
incredibly.
Like, so I'm like, is this a bit of shade from Nancy or does she really mean like congratulations?
It feels like a diplomatic move. She is president after all.
She is president.
You got to know how to wheel and deal.
So we're already kind of seeing sort of what's happening with Lucy and LD like bubbling under the surface with Kathleen and Melanie. We can see that.
Yes, similar.
We've got some cracks in the foundation here.
A lot of shady stuff.
A lot of like, oh, something new came along. I don't need my security blanket friend anymore. Mm-hmm. Kind of bullshit.
Oh yeah.
So meanwhile, over like wherever it is that Lucy and Paul and Clutch are skipping school, looks like a playground or something. So I'm like, they're just at another school. Lucy's telling Paul all about her parents going out of town, and then Clutch comes up and he's like, oh, we're going to have a party. Lucy and Paul really want to be alone, but Clutch has, I believe, the persuasive powers of Joey Jeremiah. So apparently not only is Lucy having a party, but she's also not allowed to invite any of her own friends to it, which I think really sucks. And I think Paul sucks because Paul is such a pushover and he's just not prepared to go to bat for his girlfriend at all and be like, come on, let her invite her friends.
He can't even just be like, actually, me and Lucy are just going to hang out, get lost, like, dude. Yeah. Like, he can't even do that? Like, yikes, bro. I don't know.
Yeah, man. I hate that these guys are pressuring Lucy to have a party also because like then they say that the next night another guy is having a party. And so I'm like, maybe this is my like introverted brain, but honestly, like is one party a week just like not enough?
Yeah, I mean, it's like good for the scene, but just in a practical sense, yes, my brain is also like, what, another party? What?
My brain is like, I'm tired.
I'm already tired just listening to this conversation.
Yeah, I am sleepy, but also it's like a high school party. So when does it go till like 11? I don't know. We don't know.
We were never invited to parties.
Yeah, wait, did I ever go to a party in high school?
I most certainly did not.
I don't think I did.
We're admitting to a lot.
Yeah, man.
Make sure you listen to us every week. Just a couple of losers talking about Degrassi.
Talking about the high school experience that they never had. So Joey and Snake are hanging out outside of school, and Joey's trying to convince Snake that they should replace Wheels with a girl in the band so that she can wear bikinis on stage. Here's what I'm wondering about this, if I may.
Yeah.
Joey has already said that the girls at Degrassi are minus zeros.
Sure.
So, like, who exactly does he have in mind here? Are we thinking that he's going to get one of the Sunshine Girls?
Well, I have a note on that for a later scene, but just in a more practical sense, I have no idea who he actually thinks. One, I don't know who he would like really think would want to do this. Like, I think is my main thing. Like, this might be Joey at his most delusional. Like,
I don't know. Him talking about them having groupies and doing world tours is pretty delusional.
It's pretty delusional too. I mean, we'll have to rank all of this someday.
Yes. Well, actually, okay. So this season is the final season of Degrassi Junior High. So we might need to do like a series long wrap up.
Yeah, like it could be a superlative, like what is Joey's biggest delusion? We'll have to like make a little note of that.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Stay tuned.
So Wheel starts walking towards them both, and Joey tells Snake that he should talk to him, and Snake just like slithers away. He is not able to talk to his friend yet. Wheels asks Joey why Snake won't talk to him, and Joey just kind of I think he's really diplomatic here. He says that Snake doesn't know what to say, and Wheels is kind of like, well, the least he can say is hi. But I just really like that Joey, even though Joey's trying to get Snake to talk to Wheels, and even though Joey's talking to Wheels about Snake, he's not talking shit about Snake to Wheels. He's not like, I think he's being such a dick to you. I don't like how this is going down. Like, I really like that he's listening to them both. He's kind of a go-between. He's not inserting himself necessarily where he doesn't belong. Like, he's not like forcing them into a room together. Like, I feel like if this were another teen show, like we might see something where like he like asks them both to meet for fries, and then he gets up and leaves. And he's like, you guys are going to talk this out. Like, I actually feel like that could be like a kind of like latter season of Degrassi Next Generation sort of B plot.
And nobody wants that.
No,
frankly.
Because it's not natural. It's not going to be how anyone really actually works things out. Like, I was talking to someone the other day about, I was listening to the cancel culture episode of You're Wrong About, which I think is a great podcast just in general. And I was talking to somebody about it, and we were talking about the fact that a lot of times when people are talking about cancel culture, they're only thinking about it in terms of like celebrities and how does it function on a smaller level? How does it function in our social circles and things like that? And just talking about the fact that people who are being shamed and who are being punished publicly probably aren't going to give you the apology that you want, even if they are very sorry and even if they do want to do better. People who are being shamed into doing something need to be given their own space and time to come to the conclusion that we want them to come to. And I think that when I think about Snake, Joey's not doing like an overly shameful, like pushing him into talking to Wheels. He's just kind of saying like, you should talk to him, but he's not making him feel like he's a really horrible person.
He's not like taking Snake's just like human reaction to the situation and like moralizing it and like putting it into this box of right versus wrong. Like obviously Snake should be there for his friend, and like anyone who's experiencing loss would benefit from their friends just interacting with them when it's appropriate. And so Snake isn't doing that, but it's not like it's like he hasn't in a technical sense like done anything wrong, and he should just as much be given the space to figure that out himself as like Wheels gets the space to figure out his own situation.
Because I guess the other question is, why is this so difficult for Snake? Why is it is it triggering for him? We haven't talked to him in a way where we're finding out if he's experienced death and it was very difficult for him. I think he talks about his parents, but you don't know, a grandparent or someone. But even if not, it could just be that he has a very like extreme fear of death, or maybe he really just doesn't know what to say because he's never experienced death, and he just he's so afraid of not doing right by his friend. We don't really get much of an explanation other than just like, I don't know what to say. And I feel like if we were in a different era of the show, we might get a more nuanced explanation of why it's so hard. Yeah. But I just really appreciate that Joey is giving everyone space, but still talking to everybody. He's not taking sides. He just wants his friends back. He wants everyone to get along. He wants his band, you know?
That's true too. He is sort of just like, well, you know, we like, we're friends and like we're in this band together. They just recorded a demo. Like, why would he blow that up?
Exactly. Unless a bikini girl did become available, in which case, fuck Snake or fuck Wheels or whoever can be replaced is going to get replaced with a like bikini girl on some kind of, I'm assuming like rotating platform like you would get in like a car showroom.
I think if any band had that opportunity, that's how that would go.
So still outside of the school, bootlicking Kathleen greets Mr. Radich, and he's kind of, you know, just making small talk with her, asking her about being vice president and whatever, and she's telling him that it's great. Melanie comes running up and she's like, hey, my mom and I got extra tickets to the ballet. Do you want to come? Kathleen is just like, she shuts it down so fast. She's like, I can't. Nancy and I have a meeting. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing on Friday nights, girl? Like, what is going on here? She's just basically like, we've got important stuff to talk about. Melanie is just like, don't forget about the dance committee. And this is where I've got a question. How do committees at Degrassi Junior High work? Because I feel like where I went to school, you just sign up for something. Why does she need Kathleen to appoint her to some position? Like, a dance committee is usually just people volunteering.
In a technical sense, I have no idea how any committee works at school, because I was probably one of the least involved people in my like school system. I guess I could see Melanie just wanting to have some sort of like appointment. So like, even if it were like voluntary, like maybe Melanie is trying to like, maybe she's aiming for some sort of you know, just sort of not nepotism, but just like some kind of like placement, you know, like just sort of like cronyism.
Yeah, she's gunning for nepotism. You can call it that. Go for it.
I guess so. Yeah.
I don't know. Does nepotism only have to be someone who's like your family member that you're?
I think so, but maybe cronyism is like a better like term, where it's just like, you know, because of who you know, you get like specific advantages. Maybe that's what like
the entire UK government.
Hey. Biden 2020.
Woof. So yeah, in Mr. Garcia's class, where we are now, Shane is giving Spike a wad of money again, and I actually really appreciate that that's still happening. I like that it wasn't just a one-off thing in one episode. We're seeing it happen again. it just speaks to Shane's character a little bit, and they don't make a big thing out of it. It's a very
Yes.
passing pan over, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Lucy walks in and LD's like really excited to tell her about how the game went. She thinks that they've got a great shot at the championship because they beat this team, and this team is like supposed to be the best, but they won. LD scored 3 goals, which is sick.
Yeah.
And then Lucy tells LD that she and the twins can't sleep over tonight because and LD, rightly by the way, assumes that it's because of Paul. And Lucy tells just like a big and very bad lie, and says that her mom is sick and her dad wants her to stay home with her, and LD asks if it's anything serious, and Lucy's basically just like, no. And I would argue it is something serious. It is something seriously untrue.
Yeah, we didn't totally get into it in the scene with Lucy and Clutch and Paul, but yeah, this was like Clutch's terrible advice to tell a terrible lie. And just like, I mean, even when he was sort of saying it in that scene, he was just like, I don't know, just tell him your mom is sick, which like, this is on Lucy that she like, that was really the best thing she had workshopped. She didn't give it any other thought. Like, come on. Okay.
I just feel like if I were Lucy, my excuse would be, I keep getting into trouble when my parents go out of town and they've made me promise and they're cracking down on me having parties.
I feel
that
like
would basically,
that was already a thing in a previous season, I'm pretty sure.
It's not hard.
Bring it back. I mean, again, this is one of the things that we like to focus on in this podcast is like, how can you tell your best lie? We really want to make sure that everyone that listens to this podcast is equipped to like just really have a nice, fully fleshed out lie. What is the best way you can workshop your own lying in your day-to-day life?
If you're going to lie, you need to do a good job of it. But my best advice for this kind of lie is don't fucking lie to your friends. Only lie to people in positions of power. As we've discussed many times, your lie has to always have a kernel of the truth. And the kernel of the truth here is that she's gotten into trouble for shoplifting. Someone literally got pregnant at one of her parties. Like, Lucy's got grounds here, right? Like, her parents were like just starting to trust her again. She's like working with kids. She's trying to be better. She literally only has to play the self-improvement card. And it's just like, all right, pal.
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
Well, maybe next time indeed, because Lucy is just going to fail here. You can already see it.
Oh, God. So we move on to the cafeteria where Spike is serving me our second Love Burger reference this season in her outfit. It's got the like frilly everything.
Like
it's like the puffy shirt from Seinfeld.
The singer of Love Burger, of course.
Yes, exactly. Which is supposed to be Prince, basically, but I'm going with Love Burger because I think no one looks as sick as Prince. There's a very weird sort of filler conversation here where Liz asks Spike if Spike heard about some party, and then she's basically like, oh yeah, it was really fun, and Spike's like, oh, was it? And then Liz's like, yeah, gotta go.
Bye.
Like,
so this is where we get to I forget specifically what we were talking about, but this is where we get to Joey coming over and being like, hey Liz, do you think that Joey is in active recruitment mode for a bikini base girl?
I think Joey knows better than to ask Liz to do fucking anything.
Does he?
I think so. I think they've just gotten back to being like kind of buddies because she looks not happy to see him, even though he's like, hey.
Well, we get no explanation. So for me personally, I'm just going to assume that he's already like actively pursuing bikini base girls.
Okay. I'm willing to try to see it your way.
Maybe we'll see where this goes like next week or in a future episode.
Fingers crossed, man.
Prove me wrong.
Fingers crossed.
Prove me wrong.
I would just like to say I know we've been talking about filler conversation a lot from season 2 and then this season, there's like the weird thing where they're watching that Quest for the Best and they're all making this weird sort of improv small talk. We've got the Wheels' parents talking about the movie. We've zeroed in on some of these little filler bits of conversation that you can assume probably weren't scripted, or at least weren't heavily scripted. It was probably more like, okay, guys, just talk about a party or something. and then you're gonna get up and leave.
Right.
But honestly, like if you've got a friend with a premature baby, she never gets to go anywhere or do anything. Are you really gonna be like, hey, did you hear about that party? It was so fun.
Anyway, bye.
Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go. Bye. I don't like it. So yeah, Lucy comes over and she decides to, in my opinion, be a fucking weirdo and start asking Spike about sex. Like, again, I'm like, have you met Spike? Like, what are you doing? Like, this is not something she probably wants to talk about with you.
No, it's too painful.
Like, maybe
or too awkward.
Maybe don't ask the girl who's literally only ever talking about what a huge mistake having a baby was and how her sick baby keeps her up all night. Maybe don't go to her for the sex advice. I don't know. But Lucy asks her what it was like, and basically is like, if you hadn't gotten pregnant, would it have been worth it? And you just fucking know Spike's like, fuck no. Like, she's like, have you met Shane? Like,
she's like visibly disgusted by this conversation.
I mean, no one ever talks to Spike about anything else. I feel so bad for her. Like, I just want her to get a hobby that people can be like, so how's the rug hooking going? Or like, so can I try your new kombucha? Like, I want Spike to get like a quarantine hobby, because it's such a bummer to me that no one talks to her about anything except like, so you fucked, right?
And I mean, she's being like extremely nice and open in this conversation, which is also classic Spike.
Too generous
Yes.
always, with her
Yes.
time, her information, and quite frankly, like her own personal like privacy. But she's kind of just like big LOL. She's like, it was over really fast. To which I would counter, it always is. Like the first time, right? Like they're like middle school. It wasn't what she thought it would be. I'm worried that Spike also watched like the Spice Channel maybe, and like was worried about what sex was going to be like. And then like she tells Lucy basically that like she did it because she wanted Shane to like her and because she didn't know how to say stop. And it's just like, well, Lucy, I hope you're listening to that specific part. And it seems like she did.
Yeah.
But Spike tells her to be careful, and honestly, like, I hope she heeds this advice.
Well, nobody would heed of what heeded of when no one headed.
Take headed of.
No one would take headed of my instructions.
Do you think she will
have
heeded her
warning?
I will say about this conversation, there's like a moment at the very end where it kind of feels like what Lucy is describing is just like nice though. She like, I didn't write down specifically what she said, but she's just like, I just really like this guy and I feel like maybe this is something I want to do. But then Spike is just like, no, just be careful.
Well, what she says is like, sometimes we do stuff and sometimes we go far, but we don't go all the way, and I want to go further.
Right.
And Spike's like, yeah, I had that too. Like, she,
yeah.
you know what I mean? It's
All
just
right.
like, so elsewhere in the cafeteria, Kathleen and Nancy are arguing over policy. Kathleen wants, of course, a dress code. Like, honestly,
Baby
of
cop.
course, she does. Yeah, baby cop. Cop.
Baby.
Cop. Nancy thinks that it's going to make them unpopular, but Kathleen doesn't care, probably because she's already not popular. Right? Like,
Which, I mean, I'm constantly like negotiating from that vantage point. I'm like, well, why would I care about popularity? That's not an issue for me.
yeah, honestly, that's like my daily life. So Kathleen goes right into talking about committees, and she wants to start with the dance committee. And she's basically just like, you know, some grade 8s want to be on the committee, but like, she thinks that they're too immature. She wants to restrict it to 9th graders only. And I'm just kind of like, why is she doing this? Like,
She just like nukes Melanie.
I feel like I don't understand the motive here. Like with Lucy and LD's issue in this episode, I really get what's going on. And even with Snake and Wheels, like, I get what's going on. But with Kathleen and Melanie, I'm just like, is she basically just power playing because she wants Melanie to know that she's in charge? Like, why does she not think 8th graders should be on a dance committee?
It feels like she knows Melanie is standing right there because she is.
Yeah.
And so that's also like really weird. She's very obviously talking specifically about Melanie without even like saying her name. She's just saying like some people in grade 8 like feel like they like what?
Yeah, and I'm just like, what the fuck? So Melanie comes up and tells Kathleen that she agrees with her and is like, I am too immature to be on the dance committee, and then dumps a milkshake on Kathleen, like right over her head. And it's just like, oops, like must be my
Hell
immaturity. I love this so much. I want 10 scenes just like it. Honestly, it's, in my opinion, about as sweet as on Friday Night Lights whenever somebody slaps Julie Taylor across the face. It's just absolute catharsis. And as Melanie exits, we do get a little Miss Avery shoulder touch on Kathleen, asking her if she's okay. What I love about this also is that Nancy just keeps on talking, like isn't even like, are you all right? Like she's just like, anyway, and just like, and Kathleen's just like dripping with dairy.
No, it's all incredible stuff.
Chef's
like,
kiss.
Melanie just really takes matters into her own hands. I hope she doesn't get in trouble. She did exactly what she needed to do.
Yep. And I look forward to her possibly doing it again.
Oh, please.
Or finding other ways to foil Kathleen, or at least publicly shame her, I guess, after that whole conversation about public shaming. I'm like, this is actually the good kind. So, as school lets out, people are filing out of the school, including what I've written in my notes as this Arthur lady lookalike, who is in my look of the week. I don't have a ton to say here, but basically, I love this crewneck blue sweatshirt that says "Handle with care." In just like a really great typeface over what looks to be, I think, like a white turtleneck. I have absolutely no feelings about the skirt. Take it or leave it. But absolutely love from the waist up. This is my look of the week. And I know that this is Arthur's sister in real life. I know that we are going to be actually introduced to her, I think possibly in the next episode. But I love this look.
It really looks like something that like you would find at a thrift store at around this age and be like, oh, I need it. Yeah,
if I found this now, I need it.
Yeah.
Like I'm going on Depop tonight to try and find this Handle with Care sweatshirt. So yeah, the twins and LD come up to Lucy and they're all kind of talking about what a drag it is that her mom is sick. The twins are like super nice about it because they're trusting and they're nice friends. And Lucy apologizes and they're just kind of like, it's not your fault. But then Clutch and Paul pull up and totally blow her cover by yelling, let's party. I'm like, I actually want to know, do you think that Clutch did this on purpose? Like he knew that she was going to be lying to her friends and he can see that she's talking to them outside of school. Do you think that he's doing this on purpose to embarrass her and make sure that her friends know that, they're not invited to this party?
I mean, honestly, I hadn't really thought about it one way or another, but yes, 1,000%. He's like messing with his friend's girlfriend.
The fragile ecosystem. Yeah, man. So the twins and LD are just like, what party? And Lucy just digs herself in way deeper. And it's just like, the guys are going to a party later on. They absolutely are not buying this. Clutch is yelling from the car that they all need to go get supplies and they're going to party all night. And then she kind of like runs off and the twins are just like, does she think we're that stupid? Yes.
If you have to ask, the answer.
Yeah. The answer is unfortunately yes, or at least she's hoping that you are that stupid and that you won't call her out on it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So inside of the school, Snake finally comes and he talks to Wheels. He's just basically like, I've been a jerk. I couldn't deal with what happened. He acknowledges that it's a really stupid excuse, but he says that he's really, really sorry. And Wheels is just kind of like, thanks. And then they go to get some fries.
Yeah.
Which I really like. I like that they don't linger on this for a super long time. They acknowledge it. Snake acknowledges that he was wrong. Wheels isn't like, yeah, man, that really sucks. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like this could have been a huge back and forth. This could have been the A plot if they really wanted. But I like that they patch stuff up pretty quickly.
It really didn't have to be. And like we were kind of saying earlier, like it could have been like Joey creates like this whole scenario, but it really just feels more natural this way. And just like the way that two people like this would probably approach the situation, just sort of like not knowing how to talk about it, and then finally somebody breaks the ice and then it's over.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this after watching this episode, and I was kind of like, when is the last time like a friend of mine has apologized to me for doing something? Because I kind of feel like in an age where people ghost each other, and we do have these sort of weird social dynamics where people decide they don't like somebody, and there's these mob mentalities, and we talk about accountability, and we talk about canceling, and we talk about call outs and whatever else. I'm kind of like, when is the last time I had a conversation like this with somebody where someone apologized to me, and how did I respond to it? Because I feel like when someone is humble enough to apologize to me, I'm not going to leave them on the hook, wriggling around and trying to get them to self-flagellate. You know what I mean? Like, I really do just want it to be over. And I think most people do just want an apology. They don't need to have an hour-long discussion about it or to draw it out.
Well, I mean, you and I mean, not to get like personal on our podcast, but you and I had a situation over the podcast like back in January where we had a bit of a miscommunication.
Oh, yeah.
And I got kind of upset. There was a lot going on in the country in early January that maybe some of you remember. And I had some family things going on. And it just felt like there was like a situation that like was like just a little bit of pressure to me, and I kind of snapped, and we talked it out, and then it was over. And like, I think that's how easy it can be.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, even that situation felt a little similar to this situation we're seeing here. Like, I sort of needed like a day to like sort of reset from that. And then like, I just sort of approached you and was like, hey, I shouldn't have snapped at you. And like, that was that. And then we figured it out.
But I had also been a dick, and I was just kind of like, I did my sort of classic thing of like, I say something really flippantly and think that I'm being funny because I've totally read the situation entirely wrong and thinking we're having a very lighthearted conversation when we're not having a lighthearted conversation.
Sure.
And then I also have to, kind of come to you and be like, okay, I'm really sorry about that. I definitely read that wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is just that easy. We didn't have it was like 2 texts, and that was basically the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. But so like, these things are possible, but like you're saying, like, I think it is easy to like sort of want like either immediate resolution or just like to forget about it. Like, I think it's easy to sort of like fall into that, like maybe modern or maybe just human trap of like sort of wanting it like like wanting just like to have it always or something. I don't know.
I just think a situation like this could really easily get amped up for drama and become like even a season long issue.
Oh, totally,
you know what I mean?
totally.
And I think if we were looking at a show, a different kind of teen show, a more modern teen show, we would see that sort of scenario gets really dragged out for no reason, and people watching it would be like, why can't they just talk to each other?
Not to like value judgment like friendships, but like, to me, that's what a friendship should be, is like just being able to like handle something like that easily on your own timeline. As we saw, like, it seemed like it took Snake a long time to actually get to this level, and that can feel stressful for everyone. So there's no right or wrong way, and there's not always a clear path, but like, this is how that looks.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Degrassi.
Thanks, Degrassi. So over at Lucy's house, her big kid high school party is in full swing.
There's a cool goth girl just hanging out right in front, so it's a cool party.
Yeah. Paul and just dudes are outside, and the dudes are asking him if tonight is the night. Paul's kind of weird about this, I think, or not super weird, but I think we get a little bit of a glimpse into the fact that Paul is actually pretty vulnerable and pretty suggestible.
Oh, all of these dudes are like trying to earn their patriarchy reinforcement merit badge, like no question.
Yeah, man. So Paul's kind of talking about the fact that he doesn't know if Lucy really likes him that much. These dudes are like, go for it. Clutch, the king of
I'm just imagining tiny little gremlins like, go for it.
Clutch, the king of the party that is not at his own house, is yelling to people that they need to turn up the music. Lucy comes outside. She's just gotten off the phone. She's telling them that the neighbors were calling and they want them to turn it down, blah, blah, blah. Lucy and Paul start making out outside and then decide to go make out inside. And they head over to Lucy's bedroom, which has a really childlike poster on the door that says, "My room, love it or leave it." She turns the lights on. Paul goes ahead and turns them off and closes the door. So, if I'm not mistaken, this is the room where Emma was conceived, no? Were they in Lucy's bedroom?
I don't think we ever got that info, but like that feels like a 50-50, I guess.
Sorry. So yeah, outside of the party, we get some kind of boring ass filler, I think, with Clutch singing 99 bottles of beer on the wall with some rando dude. They start talking about Paul. And some girl just like, I don't know who she is, but she is my who is she of the week. Who is she? Absolutely calls them out.
Oh, you guys, you talk so big.
What are you talking about?
There's nothing wrong with being a virgin. If there were, there'd be something wrong with you, right?
Which we love.
Zing!
Absolute burn. I love it. So we move into Lucy's bedroom. Paul wants to go all the way, and she tells him to stop, and he gives her every possible line, which I have written down. Okay. I have protection. We can't stop now.
No, yeah.
But I thought you wanted to. I thought you really liked me. And when she says she does like him, he says, then prove it. He tells her it'll be so special. He goes for the toddler approach with, but I want to. And then finally ends on some Dare program shit with, what's the big deal? Everyone's doing it.
Oh, and Lucy gets the killer.
What's the big deal? Everyone's doing it.
Fine. You won't have any problem finding someone else to do it with.
I loved this response.
My God.
I absolutely loved it. I was just like, yes, Lucy, you are using your brain and you are coming up with zingers. Thank you so much. Lucy totally stands her ground and Paul says, forget it, and leaves. She's super bummed. She's sitting in her bedroom and we can hear some dudes outside ask Paul if he scored. Paul says he'll never tell them that he didn't. And then the cops show up to the party and you can see the flashing lights outside. So that's not good. None of that is good. We do not like this whatsoever. I love that Lucy stood up for herself because this entire episode she's being pushed around. She's just doing and regurgitating whatever anyone else says. And it feels like, and I don't know how much we want to read into everything that happened with Colby, because of course we hate to talk about Mr. Colby. But it does feel like she lost her confidence after the incident with Mr. Colby. And she was, again, regurgitating a lot of the things that he was saying to her, being like, nothing even happened. He was just trying to help me, blah, blah, blah. And after she was preyed upon, it felt like in this episode, she found her voice again and was just kind of like, absolutely not. This is not happening to me.
Yeah, that's like a cool connection. I didn't think about that while I was taking notes, but like, absolutely. Yeah, that has to be like that connection. Because
it felt like she was very confident in season 1. And it felt like she was still pretty confident in season 2, was like trying to do better in school and whatever. But Mr. Colby comes along, and I think he really took that from her. I think he took a lot of her innocence. I think that he took her voice. I think he took her autonomy. And I think that in this episode, she's kind of summoning it back. And she's just like, I can keep going along with what all of these men are telling me that I need to do, or I can decide for myself what's going to happen to me. And she says no, and she stands her ground, and she doesn't give in. And I think she probably had that little voice of Spike in her head who's saying, like, I didn't know how to say stop. And so she's just like, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. On one hand, you're really angry at Lucy because she's absolutely fucked over her friends. She's had this party. She keeps falling into this trap of just doing stuff she shouldn't be doing and never really learning from it. In terms of disobeying her parents, I mean, like, the stuff with Colby was not her fault whatsoever.
Sure.
Just wanted to be super crystal clear about that. I mean, like, in terms of like having parties all the time and shoplifting and stuff like that, she seems to, only sort of halfway learn her lesson on that sort of thing. But then on the other hand, you're really proud of her because you're like, I can see the progress that she's made in this episode, even from just them being outside of the school and planning this party and Clutch being like, just tell them your mom's sick. And she's like, okay. To now she's just like, actually, fuck no.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Yeah. She's at least like establishing some boundary. Like she's figured out how to like do that in the moment where I would say it counted the most. Like all the other things you mentioned are very much like a mistakes were made like sort of thing. Like sure, she's lying to her friends. She's like you said, like shoplifting, lying to her parents, whatever. Like these are things that you can recover from and like build back from. But like it feels like the situation that she's in right here is like different from that. And she like recognizes that in the moment and is just sort of like, no.
Yeah. And I think as we've discussed, friends do make mistakes with each other, and we do just have to own up to those mistakes. And so that kind of leads us into what happens next, which is that we're back at school on Monday morning. LD and the twins are pissed that Lucy didn't invite them to the party, that she lied about her mom. And I also think that, and again, this isn't discussed, but it's really part of the fabric of LD. LD's mom was sick and then she died. And so I think that possibly also to LD, someone lying about their mom being sick just feels like a bit of a kick in the teeth.
Damn, also true. Yeah.
Right? So Lucy comes up. The twins absolutely snub her. Lucy plays dumb like she doesn't know what they're upset about. And LD's just kind of like, how is the party? Lucy still kind of plays dumb here. And she acts like she doesn't know what LD could possibly be talking about. And LD's just like, listen, everybody knows that you had a party. And then Lucy says, I tried to get them to invite you. And LD absolutely smokes her ass with, oh, right, it was only your house. And it's true, like, it was her party. She didn't have to listen to these dudes. She invited her friends if she really wanted.
She's like kind of only sorry because it wasn't a good time. Like because the party like sucked. That's like mostly what's fueling this conversation.
Yeah, she's not sorry she lied. She's sorry she got caught.
Yeah.
So Lucy tells LD not to be mad at her and that she'll make it up to her. She promises again. And then, she keeps on going and says that LD didn't miss anything, that her neighbors called the police, and that her parents aren't even talking to her. And it's like, well, how many times has this happened that your parents aren't even talking to you like that? Like when you have such a precarious relationship with your parents, you do need to tend to your friendships and have relationships outside of your family when you don't have a good parent-child relationship. You know what I mean? And so that kind of, I think, makes it even worse. I don't know. I feel like just a little parenting tip for me, a childless person. But like, Lucy continually fucks up when her parents are out of town. Maybe they should have someone stay with her.
Yeah, it feels like maybe this kid needs a little bit more supervision.
Just like a little bit. It wouldn't even have to be that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're only gone for like the weekend. But yeah, she's just kind of like, I'm not even sure, if Paul and I are going out anymore. And this is where we do not love it, right?
Yeah.
LD swings into slut shaming mode, which she was wading into the pool of by being grossed out by people making out in front of her and talking about sex, but now she's fully immersed in the pool of slut shaming, and is just like, well, you both got what you wanted, and it's not a secret, everyone knows that you and Paul did it.
Yeah, so like not only is she slut shaming, but she's also just engaging in rumors and like not actually like talking to her friend about what I would say is a separate issue from everything else that they're like dealing with.
I don't know. I guess if your friend lies to you, is like, my mom's sick, you can't come over, and then has been talking to you about sex, because let's also remember that in the very first scene when they're talking about sex, just as the credits are about to roll, Lucy's just like, I'm not going to do anything. I was just curious. Right. And so then by the end of the episode, LD thinks that she and Paul have had sex. Lucy isn't saying yes or no here. She doesn't have to. It's none of LD's business, really. But, to hear that your friend has lied to you, she had a party, she didn't invite you. She obviously didn't think you were cool enough to come to her party with her big friends, because you're a medium friend. And then, hear also that at the party she had sex. You know what I mean? I'm not sure what a 14-year-old would necessarily do differently here. Like, I appreciate that at the age of 14, it's pretty, I think, hard to differentiate your feelings about your friend lying and ditching you. And your like, I think your insecurities about being left behind by your friend who's growing up faster than you and has boyfriends. And
she just sort of takes it in like this negative direction. Like, she really starts lashing out here, basically. Like she this is where she crosses the line, right? Like, she's obviously had enough of Lucy at this point, but rather than like just sort of rather than sort of trying to be in some way, or whatever way you could be at this age, mature about it, she right? Like, she just sort of starts going after her for something that's not really her business.
Yeah, and I feel like even when I was 14, I probably would have been like, did you? Before I was just like, everyone knows you did. But obviously they're taking us in this direction on purpose. But it sucks because Lucy doesn't have a support system now. Her parents aren't talking to her. Her friends aren't talking to her. She doesn't have a boyfriend. And what happened between her and Paul is not her fault. Paul was pressuring her, and it's good that they're not dating anymore, because no one wants to date that guy who's going to pressure you into doing things that you're not ready to do. But also, like, when you ditch your friends for your boyfriend, you shouldn't be surprised that they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, it's a lot of like interplay, and it's just sort of like, that's kind of how that goes.
Yeah, it's, once again, I think, I feel like I say it's like every episode, like, well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
These are literally the exact words that I have written as my final note for the episode. Literally every single word you said is what I have written down in front of me.
Oh, incredible. It's like karaoke with a little ball bouncing.
Yeah, how'd you know?
Can't relate.
So I'm sorry to say, I think I related to the twins here. As we all saw last week, I really did not see this situation between LD and Lucy brewing, and the way the twins were acting sort of annoyed but still kind of back and forth and trusting of Lucy, way past the point when LD was over it, unfortunately felt a little familiar to me.
I related pretty hard to LD in this episode. I have been on multiple occasions the friend getting ditched for cooler people or for relationships, and I can usually sniff it out pretty early on. And once I suspect that someone is ditching me, I do not appreciate it. I will say, though, I do not slut shame my friends.
Hell yeah.
So, friend, what did we learn today?
I learned the hard way that taking a person at their word will only get you so far in life, and sometimes you gotta wake up and get a clue.
This week, we learned that you're never too cool for your friends and that sometimes you're going to have difficult conversations with them. Kathleen thinks she's in a position of power now, even though she wasn't even elected. And now she's ditching Melanie and specifically making rules to exclude her from extracurricular activities. Lucy has a high school boyfriend and lies to her friends about the party she's throwing. Both of these guys really needed to have a talk with their pals and clue them in. Elsewhere, Snake finally has the conversation that he should have had weeks ago with Wheels, and we can see them hopefully reuniting. Being honest is cool.
You can listen to I'm Sorry, Okay, a Degrassi podcast on Acast, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you enjoy what we're doing here at I'm Sorry, Okay, be sure to give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts.
That's it for A Big Girl Now. Join us next week for Season's Greetings.